But let's start to look at the actual feature. The most important one is a new ternary operator that we are introducing in the language. We're using the if keyword to make it more readable and more Pascal-like compared to the question mark semicolon syntax used by other programming languages. The behavior and the logic is the same. You can have a condition in an expression. So the if keyword is reused as an operator, and you can use it in any sort of expression, as you can see here. Specific rules are in place for coherence of the data types of the two portions, the then and the else portion of the expression. Notice that you also need to be careful because other operators have higher priorities, so you might need to use extra parentheses when merging an if statement within a complex statement. But again, the important thing is that even if the first demo up there shows a case of an assignment written in a different way, this is not only for assignments. It can be used for any expression within replacing a parameter in a function call or in any other scenario where an expression is allowed in the language. This is the most important new feature of the Delphi language in 13, but it's not the only one. We have a name of interesting function, which lets you get a string representation of almost any identifier in your code. There are new push opt and pop opt compiler directives similar to C++ pragma option, which allow you to restore the set of compiler options at a given point in time and then, save the compiler options at a given point in time and then restore them later on. There is an explicit set parameter available in record class operators initialize and finalize, used for creating custom managed records, which simplifies the syntax because avoids you to having to explicitly indicate the output and var parameter of the two operations. We also have another syntax helper, which is new operators is not and not in. Again, it's not just a slightly different syntax, is making the code more readable and introducing an operator that combines two different operators in one. There is a no return directive. You can mark a procedure as no return, and the specific advantage is that you will not get a warning that the function might not return a value if, for example, that procedure raises an exception. Introducing additional constraints for generics types, interface unmanaged and non-null are the three new constraints. This helps simplifying some of the logic in terms of generic records and is also a foundation for future work that we want to do at the compiler level. Finally, we have an extended if opt directive. You can have conditional code depending on the status of a directive, and it was limited to the short version of the directives. Now it's expanded to all of the long directives. And now Ian is going to show you a short demo of some of these new Delphi language features. Ian?
Thanks, Marco. As we just mentioned, there are a few new things in the Delphi language with RAD Studio 13, but perhaps my favorite one is the ternary operator. I've got a little demo. I should point out that this demo actually relies on a third-party component, but don't worry, it's free and you can get it from Get and install it. If you want to try out my demo code that I'm going to show you, then install this SynEdit. The only reason I'm using that is just so that it does a kind of cool demo. Go into here, I'm going to open my thing called a ternary test. Now, what is the ternary operator? Well, the ternary operator looks like an if statement, except you can use it in things like expressions. You might have seen it in other languages like C++, where it's a question mark and a colon. This we felt was a bit more Pascal-like, and that's how it works. There are quite a few rules about where you can use it, and we explain that in some blog posts and some other demos. But let's just run this demo just so that you can see, because it does make it quite clear how each thing works. The ternary operator uses a thing called lazy evaluation. And what that means is, if I run it now, you'll see that it's only going to evaluate the argument that is selected by this conditional here. So I've got a conditional statement. So if something, then do this thing if it's true. and then do this thing if it's false. So it's a bit like a conditional statement. But if I was using the if-then function, both of these things would be evaluated, and that can have some unpleasant side effects. So just to check and make sure what we're talking about, I'm just going to select cat. So this time only cat is evaluated as part of that expression. You can use it in functions. So if I use it in a function like this, you can see, is my screen width less than 2000, then return 100. Otherwise, take the screen width and divide it by 200. Well, this is a 1920 by 1080 screen that I'm recording on, and so as you can see, it's divided that building down by 200. And you can then say if some other test, which is in the code, then put small, otherwise not small. And finally, those of you that know I'm a Star Trek fanatic, as you've seen from my background, there's a famous scene where he keeps being asked, how many lights can you see? So how many lights can you see, Captain? Well, I hate it when things are not pluralized properly. You know, 0 light, 1 lights, 2 lights, that kind of thing. I hate that. Well, with this function, you don't have to worry about that anymore. I can literally say, I can see, and if the lights are equal to 1, then don't put an S on the end. Don't make it a plural. Otherwise, add an S on the end. So it says 0 lights, 1 light, 2 lights, 3 lights, 4 lights. Grammatically correct, just the way it should be.